2.8 million. That's the number of cyber attacks Taiwan faces from China every day.
害攻的目标主要锁定我国的政府、关键基础设施以及相关重要产业的供应链。
A former executive of one of Taiwan's top airlines faces accusations of spying for China.
要加强我们的渗透跟反情报的工作，那同时也要落实我们的这个揭秘的资格的认证机制。
A Taiwan lawmaker has gone viral on Chinese language social media. Plus, as Guangfu continues to recover from the devastating flood, another possible typhoon looms. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Laurel Stewart. A new report says Taiwan's government agencies are being hit by millions of cyber attacks from China every day, and the attacks are only increasing. Cadence Quaranta reports.
2.8 million. That's about how many Chinese cyber attacks a new national security report says have hit government departments in Taiwan every day this year.
害攻的目标主要锁定我国的政府、关键基础设施以及相关重要产业的供应链。那中共除了来进行情报的窃取之外，也结合在暗网、论坛还有媒体来传散各种的伪冒文件。那目的就在动摇我们国人还有社会对于政府网防的一个信心。
China claims Taiwan as its territory and has been ramping up intimidation and influence tactics on the country, with the aim of bringing Taiwan under its control. Cyber attacks a part of that strategy.
这些攻击的目的最主要还是在于说，在必要的时候他要对我们做一个瘫痪我们。那进一步的是看到我们关键的设施，包括金融的、交通的那可能交通的瘫痪不管是造成你财务上损失、实体上的伤害，还有对于心理上的一个威吓，这是他所要达到的多重的一个目的。
National Security Bureau data shows those attacks have been increasing over the last few years. In 2023, the government saw an average of 1.2 million attacks per day. That doubled in 2024 to 2.4 million and has grown again this year to 2.8 million. The government also says it's detected over 1.5 million online posts, many on Facebook, showing China is spreading disinformation. Officials say content often targets Taiwan's government, stirs suspicion towards the United States, fuels internal divisions, and promotes pro-China narratives. The report also highlights China's use of AI to try to manipulate Taiwanese public opinion on topics like U.S.-Taiwan tariff negotiations and energy policy, and the mass recall elections for opposition legislators held earlier this year. As China works to influence public opinion and society here in Taiwan, tactics that may be less visible than things like military drills, it's a form of intimidation the government says is just as concerning. Scott Huang and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan People's Party Chair Huang Guochang is denying a media report linking him to the recent hacking of a public radio station's website. In September, a Chinese flag briefly appeared on the homepage of Radio Taiwan International, or RTI. Taiwanese outlet Mirror Media reported on Tuesday that Huang was allegedly connected to the RTI engineer accused of the hack. Huang dismissed the claims that he was recruiting hackers to steal sensitive data, calling the report a fabricated story. The RTI case is still being investigated. A former executive for one of Taiwan's flagship airlines is facing charges of spying for China. Prosecutors say the alleged spy tried to use personal connections and a bribe to get national security secrets. As John Van Trieste reports, it's part of a bigger pattern of China recruiting Taiwanese people to infiltrate the country's institutions.
A former EVA Air employee is the latest Taiwanese person caught trying to spy for China. He was posted to China in a senior role between 2012 and 2014, and by the time he came back to Taiwan, was in the service of Beijing with instructions to set up a spy web. Prosecutors say he turned to a former classmate with a job at the Mainland Affairs Council, the government agency charged with China-Taiwan ties. But the classmate turned down an offer of around $3,000 for state secrets and reported the attempted bribe to officials. Now, the former airline exec faces charges of violating the national security law. In his case, that could mean up to 7 years in prison and a maximum fine of more than $3 million. But as officials say, not all the facts of the case are out there yet.
相关的细节不清楚，不过我想我们军中还是要强化我们的保防教育，要加强我们的渗透跟反情报的工作。那同时也要落实我们的这个揭秘的资格的认证机制。
This is far from the only Chinese spying case. Prosecutions have been on the rise in recent years. And from the start of the year to September alone, there were 24 cases. But the tactic of getting an airline worker to spy is a bit unusual. Beijing often targets former military members, getting them to recruit active duty personnel for spying. Some lawmakers say it's time for Taiwan to tighten up protection of its intel.
那我也会在立法院向国安局还有其他相关的情报部门来提出来，希望未来能够建制跨部会的相关异常事件反应的机制。
A former defense official says Taiwanese should be cautious when people they know, maybe former university classmates, approach them with a proposition. He says the penalties mean spying for Beijing just isn't worth the risks.
国人一定要有这样的警觉，不要去贪图那种小便宜啊。老实说，就算你泄露什么情报给他，他能给你多少钱？你为了这么一点钱去做这样的事，这是违法。
But Beijing has many ways of recruiting Taiwanese spies, from offering money to coercion. And the string of spy cases just this year shows that for many, China's advances may be too hard to resist. Andy Xue and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's foreign minister is calling for a regional security framework with Japan and the Philippines. In an interview with a Japanese newspaper, Lin Jialong said that the three countries should work together to combat China's grey zone tactics. Those include sabotaging internet cables and disinformation campaigns. All three countries are part of the first island chain in the Pacific, and each has maritime disputes with China. Lin also praised Japan's likely new Prime Minister, Takaichi Sanai, saying that she could help Japan take a more active role in regional affairs. A video of a Taiwanese legislator is going viral on Chinese social media, prompting debate over whether it is part of China's strategy to influence Taiwan. Cadence Kuranta has this report.
A Taiwanese legislator going viral on Chinese social media. The video splices together past sound bites from Taiwanese Democratic Progressive Party legislator Wang Shijian. It was posted by a Chinese content creator on Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, earlier this month, and already has around 930,000 views. The comments largely positive, some of them appearing to be from Taiwan IP addresses, one person calling Wang Taiwan's newest, most popular singer. And other social media users have created their own versions. But at least one Taiwan legislator is urging people not to watch.
迄啥物嘢匆匆忙忙，迄拢莫听，迄拢中国来洗脑的。迄啥物嘢匆匆忙忙，迄拢中国设计，中国规套咧设计，大家毋免去唱迄个歌，吼。迄就是专门要统战的，要甲咱洗脑的，毋通去唱迄个歌。
United Front work refers to China's efforts to influence Taiwan. China views Taiwan as part of its territory and has been ramping up intimidation and influence tactics against the country, including on social media, with the aim of bringing Taiwan under its control. There is some evidence of this video being associated with this goal. The original Chinese content creator later posted a separate video, writing in the caption that he's suddenly seeing so many people from Taiwan IP addresses commenting on his videos, and saying that he, quote, welcomes Taiwanese compatriots to come home. And in a press conference, the Chinese government's Taiwan Affairs Office spokesperson said he was impressed by the creativity of social media users on both sides of the strait, and later even appeared to quote the video, using it to accuse Taiwan's semiconductor industry of scrambling to survive. But when Taiwan's top national security official was pressed on whether his bureau would be investigating the video, he appeared to indicate that it wasn't that serious a case.
个案，国安局会介入来针对每一个个案来进行查的话，一定是要拉高到国安的层级。一般政治人物之间彼此的可能这一些隐私的攻防，我们不会去涉入。
So while Taiwan's government doesn't appear too concerned, both sides of the strait will be watching to see how the video's impact plays out. Patrick Chen and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
In an era of tightening information controls in China, a new book shows readers how to use open source intelligence to study and verify information about the Chinese military. Alan Liu spoke to the author for more.
At first glance, these might just look like propaganda. But surprisingly, it's a useful source of information at a time when China is tightening control on data and resources. When he was studying a degree in music, Joseph Wen began marking Chinese military facilities on a map by watching Chinese state media broadcasts. 4 years on, the map has grown to over 7,000 entries and is now a key open source resource for tracking China's People's Liberation Army activities. With years of experience, he's put out a book that shows, step by step, how to turn scattered pieces of information into a more complete, clear picture of military activity.
其实欧美国家研究解放军，研究公开情报的书，教你怎么用公开情报的书非常多，但是从来没有一本书是如何用公开情报来研究解放军。
One of Wen's most recent findings was the discovery of the POA's new Information Support Force. Beijing founded the force in April 2024, tasking it with joint operations such as combining the military space, cyber, and electromagnetic capabilities. This marks a shift in how China sees its future priorities and the ways it plans to wage modern wars.
那信息支援部队，虽然说不像是海空军甚至是解放军陆军这样子是第一线作战部队，但是如果这些入侵他国的部队或是就是武力犯台的部队没有信息支援部队的资源的话，它是不可能继续接续作战的。所以信息支援部队其实也是扮演非常关键的角色。
With free and simple tools like Google Earth, Joseph Wen shows that gathering information on the Chinese military is no longer limited to government officials or experts. Now, anyone can identify and even debunk China's often cryptic messages about the POA. Joseph Wu and Ellen Liu for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's airlines fail roughly 1 in every 5 labor inspections, according to the country's labor minister.
本部也深知航空业的特殊性，因此每年都会规划做专案的劳检。从110年到现在，我们针对航空运输业总共实施238场劳动检查，其中违法率高达21%。
Hong was reporting to legislators on the death of an EVA Air flight attendant. She fell ill while on duty in late September and died in October. The cabin manager overseeing her last flight has been probed. The case has brought into question EVA Air's policies and company culture.
不管是常见的特休被拒绝，或是天灾期间被强迫出勤，或甚至是病假的时候被证明一再被刁难，这都是台湾劳工常见的情况。
Investigations into EVA Air and the attendant's death are ongoing. Coming up after the break, why the Dutch government took control of a Chinese-owned semiconductor company amid rising national security concerns.
Playoff baseball is heating up, and every pitch and swing counts.
It's been awesome. I especially loved moments where we were here in the Dome as the away team and we had fans just packed along the back wall.
Basketball, volleyball, and football seasons are here, bringing fast breaks, powerful spikes, and thrilling goals.
You know, it's good to step outside and try to zoom out and see it from somebody else's perspective who's there to support you and to make sure that you keep going and everybody's just pushing along in the same direction.
From the locker room to the stands, from key plays to game-changing moments, we've got you covered.
我们都知道，运动竞赛本来就有很多的不确定因素，我们唯一能做的就是做好最好的准备，然后去应战。
Action, highlights, and stories. Game on Taiwan, your home for sports.
Thank you for sharing our passion for food and Taiwan. Veggie Island explores the vibrant world of plant-based cuisine.
Wow, this is amazing.
While Taiwan on the Rocks uncovers the stories and craftsmanship behind every sip.
Have you ever tried Taiwanese beer?
Are you ready to taste even more of Taiwan?
Taiwan 过人生的话，你发现说我们大部分都是爱美的。
我自己少遇见一朵花，我可能就不是这个样子。
开始思考什么叫做一个本土性，
大声的唱出来说我是台湾人。
Welcome back, you're watching TaiwanPlus News. The International Monetary Fund has raised Taiwan's GDP growth forecast to 3.7%, ahead of overall global growth of 3.2%. According to the IMF's latest report, Taiwan's GDP outlook is up 0.8% from an earlier forecast. This adjustment puts Taiwan's GDP projection above other Asia-Pacific economies. Taiwan's numbers have seen a boost from investment in AI-related tech and increased exports. But the IMF lowered its prediction for next year's growth in line with a global decrease. The Netherlands says Washington had nothing to do with its decision to take control of Chinese-owned chipmaker Nexperia. The Dutch economy minister says the move was driven by national security concerns, using a 1952 emergency law for the first time. Officials cited corporate mismanagement and possible tech transfers to China. A Dutch court later suspended Nexperia's Chinese CEO and appointed a new director. Nexperia's Chinese parent company WingTech was added to a US sanctions list in 2024. Both WingTech and Beijing have condemned the Dutch move, with Chinese state media calling it egregious and blatant political coercion. For more on the Dutch government's intervention at Nexperia, reporter Chris Gorin spoke with Dutch tech columnist Mark Heijink, author of the book Focus: The ASML Way.
Mark, the Dutch government has taken the extraordinary step of intervening in Nexperia, a Chinese-owned but Netherlands-based semiconductor manufacturer. And they've used this law called the Availability of Goods Act. What exactly is that?
It's actually a very old law. So it was in the draw since the 50s, the Cold War era. And it's like an emergency law that says, well, the Dutch government can control any company to prevent critical goods from being not present, not available for the Dutch people. In this case, it was the only option for the Dutch government to interfere or intervene in Nexperia, because things were happening within the company that were not in the interest of Dutch society or European society.
This is the first time the law has ever been used in the Netherlands, but with semiconductors being seen as vital to national security, should we expect to see more interventions, or is Nexperia a one-off case?
I think this is kind of exceptional, and I hope it will stay exceptional. Well, just one thing, a simple reason. There are not so many semiconductor manufacturers in the Netherlands, so there's a limited amount of companies that would be a potential target for a law like this. They're usually very reluctant to interfere with companies at all. So my guess, this will be a one-off, like a very rare occasion where we've seen the Dutch government interfere in a way like this. But they do have this in their kit. So they do have this tool, and they're not afraid to use it. And I think that's a step up from their naivety, well, from 6 or 7 years back.
What, to you, makes this intervention so significant to Europe's tech strategy?
Because after all, we need these semiconductors not only for our defense, not only for our economy, but also for daily lives. It's not the highly advanced semiconductors you use in your phones or in your AI systems, but also the standard products, the mainstream chips. So Europe has to make sure that they have their own availability and their own sovereignty. It's going to be a long journey, but I think in the end they'll also need companies like Nexperia to act up and to expand.
That was tech writer and author Mark Haijink joining us from the Netherlands. Taiwan's economy minister says the country must push for renewable energy to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050, whether or not it restarts its nuclear power program.
那再生能源发展对台湾来讲还是重中之重，因为不管怎样，不管是有没有核能，再生能源必须一定要发展，因为你除了再生能源发展的话，不发展不可能达到近的目标。
Gong made the comments at a conference promoting the country's net zero goals. The ruling Democratic Progressive Party has long held a strong anti-nuclear stance, but has not ruled out the technology completely. Taiwan shut down its last reactor in May, and a referendum to restart it failed in August. Also at the conference was tech firm Pegatron's chair and longtime pro-nuclear advocate Tong Zixian. Tong says nuclear power can help Taiwan reach its carbon goals.
而石化燃料发电占了我们最多的污染，占了60%，所以才会积极的绿能在可以保护环境的前提下让它成长。核能如果在安全无虞跟核废料可以有办法处理的时候，让它重长，这是一个理性的思考啊。
About 80% of electricity in Taiwan was generated from fossil fuels in 2024. A new typhoon could be headed towards Taiwan, and one East Coast township still reeling from flooding caused by the last typhoon is getting ready for the storm. John Van Trieste reports.
Just weeks after a catastrophic flood, Guangfu Township on Taiwan's east coast is getting ready for what could be another hit. Dredgers are deepening and widening runoff ditches that were overwhelmed in September when a natural dam violently overflowed from Typhoon Ragasa's rainfall. 19 people died and 5 are still missing. The hope is these ditches will be ready this time for a brush with a growing storm that could become Typhoon Fengshen by Saturday. But flood control measures are just part of what officials have planned this time around. After strong criticism from residents who say they had no warning when the dam burst, the county government has a new evacuation plan. And this storm could be a test of how well it works.
依据我们中央前进协调所在10月12日讨论出来的疏散撤离应变计划，调查内容包括民众实际居住情形、撤离能力以及撤离方式。
Under the plan, evacuations will start 24 hours before the typhoon is supposed to hit an area under a warning. Senior citizens, ill people, expectant mothers, and children under school age will all have to evacuate, along with residents of single-story homes. If the government issues an alert around the dam that burst in September, all nearby residents will have to leave. Already, though, some local officials say getting people out could be tough, even with plenty of advance notice.
24小时要撤离的话，可能有些困难度啦。有的没有赖嘛有的老人家不知道，有的坐轮椅的，警方来协助比较。有时候我叫消防队也可以，消防队来帮忙载。
If the storm does hit eastern Taiwan, several thousand people may need to move quickly. And some other local officials are already anxious about how to pull that off on their own.
这个人数一多的话，我们真的是不好挤的啦。
我们是以垂直避难为第一个要求啦，淤青啦，或是说收容所啊，还是说我们这边试点就是要中央还是说地方的协助啦。
For now, it looks like the region won't get a direct hit from the storm. But Typhoon Ragasa was also centered far away and still proved deadly. The coming days could be tough for a part of Taiwan that has already seen a lot of typhoon destruction this year. Hank Xu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Young athletes gathered in Taipei on Wednesday for a flag presentation ceremony ahead of this month's Asian Youth Games in Bahrain. This year, just over 150 athletes are competing in sports including swimming, judo, table tennis and badminton. They'll be facing off against 6,000 athletes from 45 countries. It is only the third time these games have been held and the first since China hosted them in 2013. The sports minister is offering some words of encouragement.
亚洲青年运动会是你们展现实力与各国优秀选手一同竞技交流的重要舞台，相信你们一定可以以坚持不懈的精神，在一次又一次的挑战中越来越茁壮，在我们参赛的16个种类中都能争取到最好的佳绩。
The Games are set to kick off on October 22nd. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Before we go, let's take a look at this light show at the southern branch of the National Palace Museum in Jiayi. It's celebrating its 10th anniversary. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care and see you next time.